It doesn't sound good?
It's it just went out again, but it's good right now. So don't move. Just be like real still and just talk like this.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Okay, you're good.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to the SOR-EHS podcast where SHEroes meet. Today we are interviewing one of my favorite people, one of my mentors, one of my people that I've always looked up to since birth. Okay, so this is like my sister that I've always wanted. This is my cousin Ashley Crawford. So I've I've known her for as long as I've been alive. So this is going to be a fun interview. I'm really excited for Ashley to come on and share all of her wealth. She is a mom, she is a wife, and she is also a nurse on the front lines. Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time out to be here with us.
You are so welcome. I need to do these interviews every day. It's like a pep talk, like that was great. I feel so pumped up, I'm like, what projects can I go finish now?
Listen, they can all wait. They can all wait. So for context, tell everybody how many kids you have and tell their ages so people know where you're coming from.
I have 2 children. I have 2 teenagers. I have a 16-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter.
Love it. So boy and girl.
Boy and girl.
And
Yeah.
teenagers. So for my listeners, you guys all know I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. How is it with teenagers? And your teenagers are close together. So basically, I'm going to be you in like 13 years.
It will be amazing.
Yes. How is it having 2 teenagers in your house? Like, how has that been for you?
It's been great. You're in this season, I feel like your kids show you more of who you are. I think for every stage, they show you who you are, if you pay attention. But as teenagers, they're really still trying to like figure out themselves. They feel like they've got a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of wisdom, but you have more, right?
Right.
So it's been good, just kind of seeing them like morph into themselves and adults,
Right. Yeah.
So it's been good, but you just, when your kids are small, you can kind of get away with saying stuff and doing things,
Right. Right.
you know, like if your kids caught you and your husband in the act, like
Right.
at one, you could just be like, oh, mommy just needed a hug because she was sad. When you have
Right.
teenagers, you got to sit down and like have discussions because they have questions,
Right. Like, what was that?
Yeah. Like, like, were you enjoying that or no? Like,
what were all those noises?
yes. Like, I didn't know whether to help you or let you just, do your thing. So
Right.
I would
Right.
say it's just a different stage. I'm enjoying it, like once you kind of get into the flow of things, it's really great. Just once, they're a little bit more mature, you guys can
Right.
have
Sure.
kind of conversations, different
Yeah.
type of, just experiences. And so
Right.
good,
Good.
But I will say, like I did have, a season that was tough. Um, but I think that we've all gone through that teenage stage where we just kind of feel like we know more than our parents.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Navigating that was tough, but we are a lot better now. So
Good.
but if you have teenagers, like just don't put them out on the street yet,
It gets
We can
better.
all get through this
It
together.
gets better. I feel like everybody says that. Like, no matter what stage of parenting you are in, I've always heard someone say it gets better. No one says it gets easier. I've learned that along the way. They're not like it gets easier. They're like it gets better, and I'm like, okay. Somehow I'm gonna hold on to it gets better somehow.
Easier? I wouldn't say easier because I feel like, you get through one stage and you're like, oh, okay, like I may be a great mom and a great
Right.
wife. And then you
Right.
get to another stage and you're like, oh, well, I can't do what I used to do in this stage,
Right. Sure.
And then it's like you have to figure that out. And then it's like another stage,
Exactly. Exactly.
So, yeah, I agree. I don't think it gets easier. I think you just, if we could let go of control, I feel like it
Mm,
would be easier. But I think it's the control, because
that's
control
good.
makes you feel like you've got it together.
Right.
Like I know what I'm doing, I'm smart enough,
Yeah.
I got
Right.
this. But
Right.
then like, when your plan doesn't work and you're out of control, then it's like, okay, now what do you do?
Exactly.
You know? So,
Yeah. And kids will always make you feel like you're out of control because, especially as they're coming into themselves, you can't
mhm.
control these little humans as much as you used to be able to, or as much as you want to, especially when they're teenagers, because they have their own minds and their own opinions now. And
Yes, and social media is the devil.
mm,
So
do you let your kids use social media?
we do.
Okay.
It was a tough decision because you kind of know the monster of social media
Right.
and like how it can be bad. But as adults, well, most of us, we can manage that pretty well.
Right.
Every once in a while you get sucked in. But for them, you're still trying to figure out if they can decipher, good and bad and going down like a bad path, and
Right.
getting caught up, I guess, for lack of
Right.
better. And so you really don't know that. So it would be easier to just say, no social media, like here's your flip phone, Disney Channel, like let's go.
Right. Sure.
But we decided to come alongside and to
Mm-hmm.
be involved,
Right.
um, so that when, a tough situation came up, we could talk about it.
Sure.
What we did
Mm-hmm.
not want is for it to just be something that they had to sneak and do,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. I was just gonna say that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's a tough one. It's a tough call because you really want to just protect them from everything and, but you really can't. And
No. Mm-mm.
to just be like no social media, I think is sorry, I don't know how to make that go away.
It's
To just
okay.
say no social media, I think is I just don't think that's the right way to go.
Yeah. No. I think every family is different, but I think that's great because that shows that you have open lines of communication. Like, I'm going to let you have this social media. And then if something does come up, I just prefer that you come and talk to me about it. And I think that's a great way to handle that.
Yeah. And we did have stages, like your first
Right.
stage, like having your phone, you have some
Hmm.
access,
Yeah.
and it's like you have to be off the phone by 8 o'clock. And then as you're a little older, okay, like 10 o'clock or, and it really just depends on the child. You really can't treat both the same, but
Right.
different.
Yeah.
A social media punishment for one is going to be different than a social media punishment for the other,
Correct.
Like
Correct.
one might
Yeah.
be like,
Like,
oh no, social media, great. Like I'm about to live my best life. The other one like feels like
exactly.
the world's about to end,
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
yeah,
growing up, my parents would take the phone away from me, and that would be like the end of the world. If they took the phone away from my brother, it'd be like, so what? And I'm
yep,
not mad about it.
right. You're about to live this good old life. You still
Exactly.
today? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Would you say the biggest challenge for raising teenagers is that they think they know more than you? Or what would you say the biggest challenge is? Or what
Just
has been the
this one,
biggest challenge? What has been the biggest challenges for you? Sure, as many as you can think.
I would say the the biggest challenge is being true to who you are. And that
Hmm.
sounds so cliche, but you have to be comfortable and know like who you are, right?
Hmm.
And that what this teenager is saying to you that makes you want to like commit a crime
Yeah.
is not really always the words that's coming out of their mouth, but how that affects you
Right.
and how
Hmm.
that makes you rise up and what emotions does that make um, you have.
Right.
They could
Yeah.
say something and not mean it, but if I rise up and I'm trying to be defensive and, trying to, put all my muscles out there like I know everything, you're
Right.
just cause more of a separation. So
Mm.
I think the hardest part is just knowing like who you are and being confident in yourself.
Right.
And then like really being able to figure out like, okay, I know she didn't mean to have this attitude with me or use
Hmm.
these words
Hmm.
or um, I guess have this countenance. That's a nice word, huh?
Yeah, that's a very nice word. You
But
did well on the
it's
SAT, didn't
not
you?
Thank you. Just not always being like offended, I guess, but really trying to
Right,
figure out like, okay, is it hormones? What's going on at school? What's going on with boys? What's going on with soccer? Martial
right,
arts, whatever, driving, just, like the pressures of the world.
right, sure.
So I think once I really learned that and I tried to let go of the control, I think
Mm.
that made it better.
I think that's great. I
Yeah.
think that's great. A lot for moms, just to kind of recap, is letting go of the control and really being comfortable in who you are and knowing who you are. And
Mhm.
sometimes, not always making it about you, like you said. Like sometimes they're dealing with the pressures of the world, or maybe they just studied really hard for this test and they bombed it. Whatever it may be, not making it about you and trying to figure out what's going on with them. I think that's really solid advice.
Right. And the stuff that they go through, they're not always going to tell you everything.
Right.
It could
Sure.
be so they could have done a post on Snapchat and somebody could have talked about their forehead, they're at
Mm.
school and somebody else mentioned something about their forehead. And then by the time they get home and you say something like, "What's that on your face?" And then they just
Oh,
laugh at you, you're like,
right,
"Wait a minute, like I just like you got tuna on your face. So I was just asking you
right.
about tuna,
I was just trying to tell you to
I was just trying to help you with the tuna on your face.
like that's
But,
it.
it's like there was a buildup before that. And
Right.
then they get to you and they say that, and then you want to buck up and you want to be defensive, like, well, who you think you're talking to?
Right,
Not
sure.
always necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then instead of them being open to talk to you about things, then they shut down. So
Right.
it's tough though. Like I haven't figured it out. We're in a great season now. So I'm glad I'm doing this interview today.
Hallelujah. I'm glad you're
But
in a good season.
tomorrow, we don't know. No, it's been good. God is great. We
Go
don't.
ahead and talk about it because the devil was trying to stop you from talking about how good
Oh yeah.
God is. That's
Oh
how it
yeah.
works sometimes. But you said God is good. Amen. And
He
he
is
is.
great. Like,
Mhm.
you hear that a lot, but if you truly, really like lean into that relationship
Mhm.
and allow him to really help you see you,
Mm.
it really helps you see your kids better, I
Right.
feel. So,
Mm. That's what I'm learning. Is like you really becoming a parent. I didn't know you were gonna learn so much more about yourself. Like I knew it wasn't gonna be easy, but I didn't think like, well, dang, I'm just gonna really be looking in the mirror every day and thinking about myself on a philosophical level. I've
right.
never thought about. Like I just thought, hey, I just be able to raise these humans, raise kind humans, put
Mhm.
good into the world was my whole philosophy, but behind having a kids. But then it was like, dang, every day I'm like, why did that bother you so much as a
Yes,
person? Like what
yes.
really dig into why did that bother you so much? Why did a 3-year-old giving you an attitude bother you so much?
Mhm.
And really having to like peel back those layers, it's like, wow,
Yeah. And
okay,
even like you as a child and like
right,
your childhood hurt and your
yeah,
childhood trauma.
yes,
Things
that you never had to deal with before.
and that you didn't that you may not have seen as childhood trauma, like kind
Mm,
of
that's
explained
good.
it away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she, my mom didn't mean that, or like, did my dad really do that? And it's
Right.
like it happened and it did. And like now dealing with your own children, it's like, oh, okay, like this is why this bothers me. So
Right. Yeah. Really. Yeah. And admitting when things bother you, not just like letting it go, but I think it makes you a better parent when you can kind of like say it out loud, put a name on it and say, oh, this is why this bothers me, instead of just like brushing it under the rug, because it's going to come back whether
mhm,
you brush it under the rug or not. So,
right.
yeah, I think that's huge.
And then
What
it's
would
important
you
to teach
go
them
ahead?
that, it's important to teach your kids that too. Not just
Yeah.
yourself, but for them to
Mm.
know who they are, because there are
Yeah.
so many things out there trying to tell them who they are, who they
Mm.
should be, what they should look
Mhm.
like, sound like,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
pursue. Um,
Yes.
but if I could just, like I would just love for them to just be comfortable in their own skin and to just walk out their own journey and their own path.
Yeah.
You
That's what we want for our kids for sure.
And
Amen. So, what is the best advice you would give to a mom? Like, what's some piece of advice that you were given that you use on your day to day journey, or something that maybe you just created on your own and that's like your little mantra? What's some advice you would give to a mom listening right now?
So for years, and I can still say with certainty, and a lot of people have heard me say this, but I still say it today, is my child, my choice.
Yes.
Which I think has been very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Because once like as a parent, if you own this decision, then you own the consequences, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so you just have to be careful listening to other people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and other people's agenda. I feel like most people in the world are good people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like their hearts are in the right place.
Yeah.
But sometimes their agendas are off, right?
Mm-hmm. For
Like,
sure.
so you have to check that.
Mhm.
But if it's your child, it's your choice at the end of the day.
Right. I
So one
love that.
of the things, and this is like on a small scale, but I when my kids were smaller, like I chose to spoil them. I chose to hold them all the time. I chose
Mhm.
to, like just be that mom. And everybody was
Right.
like, "You're gonna spoil them. You're gonna spoil them." I'm like, "That's fine. Like I'll deal with those consequences." And like I
Right.
did,
Right.
but in that season, like it just didn't make sense to me to like let my child cry.
Yeah.
Let my child go hungry or like
Right.
that
Yeah.
is not who I am. So
Yeah.
I'm about to parent the way I want to parent. So
I love that. I love that so much because I just feel like it is your choice and you can't let social media tell you what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, even your family members, even your best friends, like you can't let other people tell you how you want to parent. And
yeah,
I do think it comes from within us too. Like, there's certain things within us that we know, like we know our own limits, and we all have strengths when it comes to mom. So I love that. Um, you know, I,
definitely.
I definitely hold my kids all the time too, like because I do know that they're only going to be little for this short amount of time, and then I'm going to blink and they are going to be off at elementary school and blink again and they're going to be in high school. So I do think, my child, my choice is is a great way to live by as a mom.
Yeah. And we don't, when we say that, we don't have all the answers, right?
Right. Oh no,
We
absolutely
have
not.
like, a mother's instinct,
Right.
right? We have a little bit of experience,
Yeah.
we got the Holy Spirit, so that's
Mm-hmm.
always good.
Right.
Um, but if we fall, then we're just confident that the grace of the Lord will cover us all, right?
Yeah. Basically. That's how we're going. That's how we're doing it. How do you pour into yourself? Because you spoke a lot about like knowing who you are. So how are you
Mhm.
constantly pouring into you and building Ashley up? Not just as that mom role, but as an individual so that you can pour into your children. Like what are you doing to fill yourself up?
What am I doing to fill myself up?
Mm-hmm.
Eating. I'm just playing. Let's see. To
Did you
fill myself
say eating?
up, I did. And a glass
I
of
love
wine every
that.
once in a while.
Are you a
Every once
foodie?
in a while. I'm
I love
a
that though.
foodie.
Hmm.
What am I doing to feed myself? Um, so I would say therapy
Okay.
is a good one.
Definitely. I
Um,
love that one.
and then
Mm,
like using those tools is huge.
yeah.
And then just trying to stop rushing all the time. Because I find
Mm,
that we rush to try to get to the next stage and the next thing and to just check this off and check this off. But
mm,
if I could just slow down,
right.
if I could be present,
Yeah.
so that when something is off, I can kind of check it instead of just, like keep moving, brushing it under the rug,
Uh-huh.
that gets us nowhere. If anything, that sets us back.
Right.
So I would say that. Um, and then just asking myself why I do stuff, you know?
Mm, right.
You don't realize why you do stuff. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things, my husband and I used to did we argue? Maybe we argued. Um, I'm a morning person, he's not,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So for the longest time, it would bother me that he didn't want to get up because I'm
Right.
like, like you're wasting the day away and like you're just lazy and, like all of these things that just was
Right.
not nice,
Right.
But because of the things I saw, like being raised and the things I heard, like my parents say, it was like I was pushing that on him, you know?
Yep.
So like
Yep.
that's an example, like you just asking yourself, like, well, why is this bothering me? And it's not like he's purposefully trying to hurt me,
Right.
it's just that's
Right.
he is. Okay.
Right.
So then it just kind of puts you into the mindset of, okay, like, well, what do I like? Do I like to wake up early? I do, you
Right.
know,
Right.
take walks by myself. I do. But for me, one of the biggest things, me getting my time is just sitting in the car,
Mm.
sitting in the car, and I have a prayer closet, but I think that there's just always the possibility that somebody can walk in on you,
Right.
you
Right.
know. But your car in the garage, like nobody can really, you see them coming, you
You
know what
see
I'm
him
saying?
coming. That's the
You can
difference.
be like,
Yeah.
let me wipe these tears, let me clean up everything I threw around in my car. I'm just playing. I'm not
Right.
that person.
Let me hide those fries that I don't want to share with anybody under the seat real quick. That's
Oh,
me.
that's so mean. Jennifer, I hope you don't do that.
I'm not gonna say I don't do that, but if I eat some fries and I wanted to eat fries in peace without all the hands going into my bag, yeah, I definitely eat it in my car before I walk
And
into the
that
house.
is okay because you at
That's
that
okay.
moment probably need all 47 fries. Like if
Exactly.
you had 46, your day
Mhm.
would just ruined.
And
So
if
let
you're
me
at
know
Chick-fil-A,
yourself.
you're only getting 10 fries, but hey,
Oh
who's
my gosh,
counting?
you count. Oh, did you
No,
count?
who's counting? I'm just saying. It
I was
feels
like,
like 10
that's great.
fries. It feels like 10 fries. Like that's all we're getting. Okay, but I love that. I love that. So therapy is one way that you're filling yourself up, which I think is great. I'm an advocate for therapy. If you follow me on social media, I'm always telling people to go to therapy for even if you feel like you're perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. Sitting in your car, that is a great tool. That is a great thing, a resource to do. Just having that time to even collect yourself before you go in and engage with your family, because sometimes we might have had crazy times at work or whatever it may be. It's just that time to decompress, get your thoughts together, and then go into the house. So I really do love that. And then number 3 is just really asking yourself, digging deep, why do certain things bother me?
Yeah.
Why is this about my spouse or about my kids or about my friends? What is it about me and my upbringing maybe that's bothering me so much about them? And I think that's huge, because I think when you can kind of figure out the root of that, life becomes a lot easier when you can figure out why certain things bother you and your triggers. In
Hmm.
therapy, a lot of times we use the word trigger. If you can figure out your triggers,
Hmm.
phew, life, yeah, life really becomes different, and you look at things a lot differently.
True story.
So I love that. What is your favorite part about motherhood? What is your, it can be more than one, but what's your favorite thing about being a mom?
I, I would have to say just seeing them grow into themselves.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
not who I wanted them to be or not the way I may have wanted them to, I guess, turn out, but just,
Right.
them being confident in their own skin and
Yeah.
just that, and uh I guess just from birth and to a teenager and just navigating life and then throwing away all the garbage and just keeping those things that are just precious about them,
Mm-hmm.
and then just being confident in themselves, I think is just huge. I love that. Experience it, first time experiences for them.
Right.
Uh, that's always fun. So,
Yeah.
or when they hear a song from like your era and they're like, oh, that's a nice song. Or no, wait, no, back up. They hear a song from like when you were growing up. And so the song comes on the radio and it's like, oh, that's my jam, and
Uh-huh.
they're like, what's that? You'd be like, girl, don't you do her like that.
Let me
Don't do
tell you.
it
Let me
like
tell you.
that. Don't do Warren Hill like that. You know what I'm saying? But, and, anyways, just, I think there's a lot of great things about being a mother. You don't
Right.
have all the answers, but just having like a front row seat to just, the legacy that you have a part of creating is
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's
Right.
really big. It's really, really big. And even their friends, it's, how they choose their friends and that relationship's not going to work out. So let me go over here and try this and just, them experiencing the world and trying to figure things out and just kind of being, on the front lines of that is pretty cool.
Yeah. How has that been navigating their friendships? Because I remember growing up, it
Oh,
was I always be like, my mom would be like, okay, you choose to be her friend, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think that's a good choice. And she would let me be friends with them. It was never like, you can't be friends with them. And I appreciate that so much more. But I do remember in her own way, she'd be like, but that's not gonna work out. And I used to get so mad when she would say that. But funny enough, a lot of times when she did pinpoint those friendships that weren't gonna work out, she was right. So how do you navigate these friendships with your teenagers? Because I know it's so like now that I'm a mom, I know I'm gonna want to be like, no, like they're awful, or it's not good, that's terrible, you're making a terrible choice. But I know that we have to kind of like let them make the choice. So how has that been for you?
uh, I'm really careful not to say, don't be her friend.
Right. Right.
But I ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I let them fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what I try to do is I touch them with advice,
Mm-hmm.
I back off, like, okay. Because I have to believe that even though I want to take control of the situation,
Right.
like I still have to let them figure it out,
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
of course, if it's, if they're safe, it's, has nothing to do with like drugs or like, things like that. Because
Right.
then I'm different. So I would say that number one. And then number two, invite them to the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you tell your kids like invite them over.
Mhm. I'm like, oh, we having a sleepover tonight? Oh, don't you want to invite, it's Halloween. Don't you want to have a Halloween party? Invite your friends.
Mm,
Y'all want to go
right.
swim? Y'all want to go swim in the pool?
Mm-hmm.
So who do I
Right.
invite? And then you help them invite the people.
Right.
Oh, her. Yep. And then you keep an eye on them. Then
Right.
you talk to them,
Uh-huh.
you know? And
Yeah.
there was, I can remember there was one friend, just troubled
Mm.
child,
Mm-hmm.
bad situation. And she was just not nice. She was just
Right.
a nice friend, and mistreated Aubrey, used her, like would take her money and not pay her back. To the point like when she came over my house, like I wanted to be like, you better cash out me my daughter's money. But
Run me my money.
but talking to her
Mm-hmm.
in my home was helpful
Mm-hmm.
and it made her uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Where and
Absolutely.
it's not like I was trying to make her uncomfortable,
No.
but it was just her being able to see like how you really can be a good friend and how you really do need to treat people well,
Right.
and
Right.
how when she came, like we showered her with food and,
Mm-hmm.
games, activities, love, hugs, laughs, conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would say that is huge. Just
Mm.
don't just say don't be their friends, but maybe try to get in a space where you can have the friend over, see them at a basketball game,
Right.
like
I like that.
I would say that was really helpful because then it allowed her to see too, like her friend's true colors or
Right.
that true colors.
Yeah. And those friends that usually are like no good will find every excuse in the book to not come meet your parents. Oh, your parents are going to be home? Mm-mm. I don't want to do that. I don't want to come over to your house when your parents are there. I got to meet, the ones that are up to no good always find excuses not to come to the house.
Or the ones that try to come over because they think I'm the cool mom. So they'll
Mm.
try to come over here and then meet up at the park so they can meet a boy.
Mm.
Oh no, you're not at my house.
We're already meeting boys.
Because I drove up to the park like this, rolled my window
Oh,
down.
you did what?
It wasn't my child though, like it was her friend.
Wait, her friend like put her up to come into your house and then for her to go meet the boy in the park, like basically using your child. Oh.
Mm-hmm. So then
And
we have a conversation.
so you pulled up and you were like, what are you guys doing?
Oh no.
Oh, how'd that work?
I pulled up and just watched them.
Oh, so they didn't know you were there.
Till we got back to the house, and I watched them lie their way through.
Bye, mom.
Which I
Oh.
oh, who was there? Oh, really? Well, that's interesting because I saw two boys up there, y'all sitting on the bench. Miss Crawford, you saw it, you didn't say anything. I said, so now I can't trust you.
Mm.
And so for me, I felt like that hurt worse than me trying to be like a helicopter mom in control.
Oh my God, this
Tell me
is
after
fire.
that, it was just like, there's no looking me in the eye. It's like, they want to look down and not look at you. And there was another one that she was kind of iffy, but invited her at the house, I'm gonna love you, feed you, all the
Yeah.
things.
Right.
And then she ended up, taking my daughter's crush or whatever, which she knew what she was doing.
Aww.
I had already prepped my daughter. Like, this is the type of person that will probably do A, B, and C. Of course, she didn't believe me. Oh, that's fine. I'm still be
That makes me sad.
nice mom, a nice motherly figure to her or whatever.
Yeah.
But then, like, once she did that, like, she couldn't look me in the eye either, never came back over.
Of course
And
she
that,
couldn't.
so I don't know. I think just being involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to just be like, oh, girl, you and your friends, y'all deal with that over there, and I'm gonna just come over here.
Right.
I think there's something to be said about just being involved in those relationships. And of course,
Yeah.
there's still I'm not going to tell you everything,
Mm-hmm.
but just knowing that you're there and that if they did want to have a conversation, that we can do that.
So was there a punishment for not going to the park because they were allowed to go to the park, but was there a punishment for lying about who was at the park?
I did not say a punishment. I
Okay.
could tell that she, like she was God,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at that point, like, I didn't feel like I needed to just keep, I guess, beating a dead horse.
Right.
So yeah.
I like that. I like that because I feel like a lot of parents would have been like, no phone or no social media or no whatever. But when you know your child, and I think this is the biggest nugget to take away from that is when you know your child and you probably know the hurt that she felt that she was enough, there's no need to continue with a punishment because that was punishment enough. And I think that's huge. And I think that's when parenting really plays a huge role. And that changes how your kids look at you too, because they're like, in that moment, you could have just took everything away, grounded her for however long, but like internally, her hurting you was punishment enough. And
knowing that trust was
broken. But also knowing your kids, because for some kids that's not enough. Okay, for some kids it's like, okay, I done hurt mom's feelings and broken trust a million times. Okay, we need to have another punishment because maybe in that moment with that certain kid, that hurt right there wasn't enough. So I think going back to what we were talking about is full circle, is knowing your children, really being involved to know your child and to know how to parent them, and when to punish and when just the conversation is enough.
and knowing yourself too, right?
Yeah, of course.
I
Knowing
think
yourself.
a lot of pride could have been overbearing in that situation. Like, well, how dare you lie to me? And you gonna try to get over on me and did it. I mean, you could go there, but then
Right.
like but then like the focus switches from what I feel like is really important.
Right.
That's the fact that you broke my trust,
Yeah.
and So now you better not ask anybody to come to the house. Don't ask me to go to a basketball game. Like, so, and then to your point, yes, there are other punishments that I've had a child who had their door taken off. So it just depends on the situation,
Depends on the situation. It depends on the child.
Yep.
It depends
We've
on a
got
lot of things.
a house phone because at one point, there was a child talking on the phone,
Mm,
really late. So back in the day, with the house phone, your mom could
yeah.
just pick up the phone and be like, "What y'all doing?" Or go to bed.
Well, pick up the phone and just listen and
And
not
so yeah, so I went
announce themselves.
and we went back old school.
Yeah.
Or just if the phone rings, you know how that the phone ring, they try to hurry up and pick up the phone.
Yeah.
But instead of them saying hello, you say hello.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So it just depends, man. It's tough because every situation is different. Half the time, you don't know if you're doing the right thing. You
Right.
don't know if you're creating stones. You don't know if this is
Yeah.
going to cause trauma 30 years down the road.
What?
You
Speak
just have to
on
give
that.
yourself, you got to give yourself grace, and it's
Cause
just
we're in the generation now, okay, of conscious parenting. And we're really trying to parent our kids so that we do not create childhood trauma.
oh,
Right.
it's gonna
and
happen.
and we're trying to break generational curses, but we just never know what someone's trauma is going to be. It might not have been a trauma for us, but for our kids, who knows, it might be a trauma. But I like what you said, and I say this too, is give yourself grace. That's all you can do,
You got to give yourself,
really.
and have a good team of other moms that are encouraging, and
Yes, a
like that's
village.
really, it's really big. Those that aren't big into comparisons and comparing,
Yes.
but just knowing like we're all in this together, and I don't know what I'm doing. What you do, like how do you do this? How you cook that? With
Right.
how do you punish your child?
Yeah. I think that's true. That's real. Like, because there is no handbook.
Mhm.
I've said that on like every episode, I think so far. It's like, there is
Mhm.
no handbook. So we're all just figuring it out.
Yeah.
We're all figuring it out. Okay. I have one more question. And I love this question just because everybody does it differently. How do you manage your household? So I'm talking from like grocery shopping to dinner to cleaning to everything that comes to household. And then also, you're a nurse, so you're working too. So how do you manage all of that?
So we talked about control before.
Yes.
I was a stay-at-home mom before
Mhm.
I went to nursing school.
Yeah.
So I felt, so I had more time, and I'm not trying to say anybody's worse or better for being a stay-at-home mom or working mom.
Right.
But for me in that season, staying at home, I had more time to have more control, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like the meals and groceries and laundry, like I had a really good system.
Right.
But then once I started working, it was a lot more difficult to manage that stuff.
Yes.
And so like, I felt like I was losing control.
Mm.
Um, but I had to just realize like what's important in the moment.
Right.
Some moments it's just not important that you wash all the dishes.
Mhm.
Like sometimes you just have to get on the floor and play with your kids,
Mhm.
take a walk with your son, or
Yeah.
listen to the tea of the day,
Mhm.
with your daughter. But I think there's just so much pressure for
Mm.
the moms to do all the things
Yes.
that
Yes.
we just miss out on like the present things and why God put us here.
Right.
I just don't
Right.
believe we're from sun up to sundown, we're just supposed to be doing, doing, doing.
And
You
we're
know,
not. And we're
no,
not.
like, we're supposed to be seeing,
Right.
seeing our children, seeing
Right.
ourselves, seeing
Right.
God,
Right. Right. Right.
all of the distractions of the things and the checklist is just so distracting. So I think that would probably be my answer.
Yeah.
But okay, so groceries,
Do you have like an organizational thing? Like, you know, some moms are really organized. Like, I go grocery shopping on Monday and I clean on Wednesday and I do laundry on Thursday. Are you like that? Or are you just like, hey, if I feel like doing laundry today, I'm gonna do laundry?
So I used to be that way where I did everything on a certain day and I was
Right.
just, felt like I was on top of the world. Like I just had my life together, honey. I could
Yes.
look,
Right. Right.
like let me
Right.
these other moms out here.
Right.
Like the season changed, like the kids were more involved and they got busy. I
Yeah.
started working, and so I had to sit down with my husband and just basically talk it through with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so do you expect like a warm meal every day?
Right.
Like, do you expect for your house to be spick and span every day? Because
Right.
I felt like for a season I was killing myself because I wanted to be that for him. Not that he
Mm.
ever said that,
Right.
but from the pressures of the world and then
Yes.
the way I
Yes.
was raised and
Yes.
maybe hearing one parent have a preference for the way things are. And so
Yes.
bringing that to my relationship and thinking like, oh, well, this is how one of my parents wanted things done, or even doing it like just unconsciously, subconsciously, not realizing it. So I think it's important to really kind of check in with your spouse too about expectations,
Right.
because you'll kill yourself trying to complete those things that other people aren't even expecting out of you.
I love that. I love that because I feel like as moms, we put so much pressure on ourselves. And it's basically what society told us, like, right? So 50 years ago, women weren't really working. Women were in the house and they were taking care of the house, but they weren't working outside the home. So they were able to do that. Now we put all this pressure on ourselves to do what they were doing, but also work.
Yeah.
Like, how, in what world does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, but we put that pressure on ourselves and we drive ourselves crazy. And I think that it's great to ask those questions of your spouse. And then going back to what you said, and that's like the theme of this episode, is really asking yourself, like pulling into yourself, like, why am I trying to do all of this?
Yeah.
Why? Why
Because
am I
I didn't
killing
want my
yourself?
spouse to complain like
Right.
maybe the complaints I heard growing up.
See, and that's just that
That might not
trauma.
be a complaint of your spouse at
Right.
all.
At
So I'll
all.
I'll go a little bit further with the whole cooking and cleaning thing.
Yeah.
Um, because that expectation was not from my spouse, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but
Right.
once we talked about it, his response was, "Oh, you don't have to cook every day. Just
Mhm.
have a plan.
Right.
Uh, oh, so we can do peanut butter and jelly and like, or hot dogs and chips, and you'd be fine." He was like, "Yeah, no,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
really?" So it
Uh,
doesn't have to be like a home cooked meal. It doesn't have to be like a healthy meal every day,
mhm.
you know?
Right.
Um, so yeah, man, I think knowing yourself is just huge.
I think that's going to be the theme of this episode.
Why you're doing, why you do what you do, why you expect certain things out of other people.
Yeah.
I think it's just,
Knowing yourself.
yeah,
Mhm.
because
And once you
we
really
don't know ourselves. We still don't know ourselves,
No, we
like
don't.
a little closer.
We're constantly learning every
We're
day.
constantly learning and we're changing. And just like our kids are growing, like we're growing.
Exactly. We're aging as they're aging.
Yeah. And then just letting go of those things of the past that we don't even realize that we were holding on to.
Right. That
You know?
part. That part. I love that. Like, I just feel like every time I talk to a mom, I get so much new insight, and it also motivates me because I'm like, okay, things that I'm struggling with, somebody else is struggling with, and now I know that I'm not the only one, and now I know some things, like I'm putting so much pressure on myself for certain things. I'm like, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Like, as long as your family is taken care of, your kids are taken care of, you're doing the best that you can, you're giving yourself grace. That's all that really matters in this world. Because in 10 years your kids aren't going to be like, oh mom, the house wasn't clean all the time. Like, that's not something I'm ever going back to say to my parents, like, well, I remember when the house was messy. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. For me, I don't remember. I remember people cleaning, but I don't remember like I don't remember how clean it was or how messy it was. Like, not something I'm taking with me.
And then the other thing, so that was the example about the whole cooking thing. But the other example, I used to think that my husband just wanted a clean house all the time, spick and span. But after talking with him, he was like, oh no, I just need a space. Oh, you just need a space? Okay. So I just clean the living room every day and you'll be fine. Clean the living room, give you some, hot dog and chips, you'll be fine. Yes, he was fine.
Wow.
Now, not every day is he going to be okay with these hot dogs and chips. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes that's okay.
She's not saying hot dogs and chips every day for dinner, moms. That's not what she's saying.
But as long as he's got, a plan for the meal and a little corner of the house that is clean where he can relax, that is his expectation, not the one I was putting on myself.
Right. That's good.
Yep.
And that's all from, you think, your upbringing, that you thought like, oh, the house has to be spick and span?
I think it was, some of it was that. And then also just, once you do become a mom and a wife, and what society tells you about how you're supposed to be in the household.
Right.
And if somebody comes in your house and it's dirty, it's a reflection of the mom.
Yeah.
Not of the husband.
Which drives me crazy, because why? Like, why is that a reflection on us and not them? Like, they very much live here every day too.
It's just
why? I just don't understand these.
It's just been carried down. And so it's one of those things where we just have to ask ourselves, like, why am I doing this again?
And we have to continue to speak out against it, because if someone walks into your house and it's messy, it should be a reflection on everybody living there, not just the moms. And I think the more we talk about it and we speak on it and we correct people when they say hurtful and hateful things like that, the more things will change. Because until we speak about it, people are going to keep saying that. And I don't think it's fair to moms. A lot, and a lot of moms of us out here now are working moms, whether we work at home, whether we work outside of the home, and heck, I'll go a step further, whether we're stay-at-home moms, that's still work. So we're all working. We just all working in different capacities. And when you have young ones and you're trying to keep your house clean and trying to cook and maintain everything else, hey, it's not all going to be perfect. And we got to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves.
Yep.
I really do think we do have
only the expectations of those people that are in the house that really matter.
Right.
And
yeah.
I'm sure both of my teenagers would love for us to not have a clean house, because then they'd have no responsibility to keep anything clean.
Right.
But we can't do that. Y'all gonna clean this house, okay?
Right. and and that's teaching them too. As they get older, they have to clean and blah blah blah. So you're putting those things in their head so that they know how to keep a clean space when they go out into the world, or they become a roommate or a spouse. Hey, at least they know how to clean, both. And you're not only teaching your daughter how to clean, you're teaching your daughter and your son how to clean. And I think that needs to continue to be passed down from all households. So it's not always so much pressure on the women that are supposed to clean the house, because men very much should be cleaning too.
And like I said, it's the expectation of the household,
Yep.
Some men really love to clean and like to clean and don't like the way their wives clean,
Right. Oh yeah, I've heard that. So those stories too.
I'm like, the expectation of the household, silence all of the other voices.
Silence the noise. Silence the outside noise. If they're coming from the outside of your house, like you said, it really doesn't matter. Silence the noise of social media too, because social media will be in your head putting some crazy thoughts. So watch what you're watching. I think that's huge, moms. A lot, make sure you're following moms that align with your values, because some of those moms out there might be preaching something that is really making you kill yourself when you don't necessarily need to be doing that.
Yeah. And I got into a practice of asking myself, like, when this season passes, will what I'm stressed about and what thing I want to check off my list, will it matter? When this season passes, will it matter?
I like that.
Did I clean the baseboards today?
Right.
Or that
I like that a lot.
That I folded every stitch of laundry today.
I like that.
Will it matter more that I really sat down and had a conversation with my teenager.
Right. What will matter after
What
the season is over? I like that.
matter?
I think
Mhm.
that's a great way to end. What will matter after the season, whatever season of motherhood you're in right now, what will matter at the end of the day? What will really matter in 5 to 10 years? Will
Mhm.
this laundry that's not folded matter, or will that conversation with your teenager matter?
Right.
And my answer would be always pick the kids because
Mm.
that's what matters.
Yep. Or
Thank
yourself,
you.
or even yourself,
Or even yourself. Heck yeah, even yourself. Thank you so
Yes.
much for taking this time out to talk to us here on the SOR-EHS podcast, where SHEroes are my heroes.
So
Moms are my heroes because honestly, moms do all the things and we make it look so effortlessly. And I'm just in awe of all moms. So, keep doing what you're doing, Ashley. I appreciate you. You've always been the one that I've looked up to. You got married first, you had kids first, and I was just watching, following behind in your footsteps like the younger sister. So I appreciate you so much. So thank you so much
love
for
you. You know,
being
you
here.
got a special place in my heart too. And I just wish we could spend more time together, but
I
you
know.
want to stay down in Florida, so we
Girl, whatever.